What kind of advice do you have to homeowners?
Practicing that preparedness, starting the conversation now is always going to be a benefit to any association out there.
And welcome to Recovery Report Live, Global Pro's deep dive into relevant business and insurance topics, providing actionable takeaways and valuable insights. We aim to update, educate, and inform you weekly. I'm Dan Odess, president of Global Pro, where we manage risk to recovery. We want to start off this episode, obviously sending all of our thoughts and prayers to all the victims of Eta and now Iota. It's absolutely tremendous amount of destruction and damage we've seen in the Central South American areas. And we're going to talk a little bit later on in the episode about what we're doing here at Global Pro to help. And we hope all of you can obviously extend a little bit and help with those efforts. I know we're all reeling from the pandemic and many disasters we're seeing here in the United States, whether it's all over the Gulf Coast or whatnot. We've taken particular interest in what's going on there just because of the disadvantaged individuals that are suffering from such catastrophic loss. And they don't have the assistance that we otherwise have in the United States. Not to say that we don't need it here domestically, it's to say that we do have quite a few resources and you're already starting to see some of the recovery efforts. And we want to continue those, and we're going to do what we can. And we're going to continue our recovery efforts to not only help those impacted by Eta and Iota, but also those in the Gulf Coast later on into 2021. But before we get there, I want to talk a little bit about what's going on and impacting us here in the United States in this pandemic and the issues that we're dealing with as a society as we are trying to recover from a lot of the issues related to the pandemic. And some of the stress points that we've been hearing about, whether it's fear of infection, the effects of isolation, quarantine, social distancing, a lot of the things that weigh on us as individuals. And as business owners, it only compounds that, because not only are you worrying now about how it's impacting you as an individual, but now you're feeling the effects of your employees and your customers, and trying to measure how and where you need to make your efforts, and how you're going to go about protecting not only yourself, but also your employees and others that may be infected by this virus, and also your customers who have been loyal to you. You want to continue being loyal to them and providing them the great services that you have over the years. It's always very, very important that you keep that in mind. And what comes with that as a business owner is the retooling and reconfiguring of your business. And I think that a lot of business owners may have buried their head in the sand at first and thought, oh, I'll just weather the storm. The government assistance came, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe we'll rely on that and we'll just bridge the gap and this thing will go away. And we pray for that time for that to happen. And with the advent of these vaccines and the claims that these pharmaceutical companies are making with regards to how effective these things are, we're obviously very optimistic, but we have to obviously plan for the worst. And that's what Global Pro is all about, is making sure that we plan for the worst so that when it does happen, it certainly doesn't put us out of business or take us out of our daily routines. And if it does, we need a contingency plan to be able to retool and refocus ourselves. And it's always so important. And there's many different things, and there's studies coming out about these different effects and how to deal with these things. But I'm not seeing a lot about how business owners should manage their employees and customers and in a way to deal with these issues of isolation, quarantine, and infection and things like that. How can you build assurance in your customers or your employees? How can, not only that you'll be here tomorrow, but that you have a safe place to come and you have a service or a product that is worth whatever risk they may think they have in order to come to your business? And how do you take steps to make sure that you are actually following through on that promise, that you do have a safe place or a business location for your employees and customers to arrive at? And I think there needs to be a lot more conversation around that as we see the numbers climb and astronomically. And you're seeing not all of the jurisdictions throughout the United States pull back on regulation. There are some, and there's some isolated areas where we're seeing governments step up and enact certain laws and regulations with regards to what you can or can't do, but not in all places. So particularly in South Florida, we haven't seen it yet. I know that there's a big meeting yesterday with the mayors and the governor about proposed legislation. I know quite a few of the mayors in South Florida region particularly are pushing for increased regulations, mandatory masks, etc. But we don't have that yet, and we're headed into the holiday season and where we're going to see a great influx of people here. We always see it every year, but now I can imagine that it's probably going to be even more if we don't have the travel restrictions, things like that. Great thing for businesses because I definitely think that they could use the surge of new customers and people coming to the area. But on the flip side of it, on the health concerns, is how do you protect your employees, your customers, and yourself with the alarming rate of infection that is being reported. And some of the modeling that we have seen is it's not just because you're testing more people, it's actually because more people are getting infected. What does the death rate mean? There's any number of studies, and depending on your political beliefs or how you align yourself with the medical community, it depends really on how you interpret that information. And I'm certainly not going to try to jump into that quicksand and get into a big argument over that. But the fact is that there is a lot of information out there, and really, as a business owner, how do you digest it and how do you make informed decisions, and how do you do things in a way that is advantageous to your future, not only for your business but also for yourself. So part of our initiatives in helping businesses was we first launched a campaign. A lot of you that have tuned in and been with us week in and week out have heard about the Love in the Bag campaign, where we're helping local businesses and our community recover by providing them a means to attract new clients, but also to get a message out about maybe specials they're running or things like they're doing. We focused in on the restaurants. We printed these bags, flyers. We ran marketing campaigns online for them. It was a tremendous amount of success, and it continues to roll, and we're having a lot of fun with that. And just yesterday, we kicked off yet another campaign. It's an initiative that's been with us for a little while here. It's called Fresh Kicks and Cuts. It's a Global Pro Cares initiative to help individuals that have been damaged by natural disasters, such as the victims of the 2020 storm season, whether that's in Central South America or here in the United States. What it's all about is making sure that we can help people get some fresh kicks on their feet and get some fresh haircuts to make sure that they walk a little bit taller, a little bit lighter on their feet. Getting back to normal is what we always want, and we want to help you do that by just changing your perspective. And sometimes all it takes is a new haircut or a fresh pair of shoes, especially when in areas like Honduras, which is majorly impacted by ETA, where they don't have access to new clothing or fresh kicks or even a haircut. We want to be able to see if we can provide that to them. And we're starting with the shoes. We want to start off with a gently worn pair of shoes, clean them up. We have different drop-off locations, the first of which is on 20th and 27th in Alapata, and we also have another location on 27th in Coconut Grove. Very convenient for pretty much all of Miami. But if you want to get involved and you want to give back and you're interested in joining us in our initiative to give back to the victims of the 2020 storm season, contact us at recover@getglobalpro.com or check out our website at getglobalpro.com. Go to the About Us section. You'll pull down to Global Pro Cares, and you can read all about all the initiatives that we're doing right now, whether it's the Love in the Bag or the Fresh Kicks and Cuts. And there's plenty of contact information there. Reach out to us. We have a ton of boxes for collection purposes. What happens is the shoes get collected into the boxes. We then look at those shoes, clean them up. We mark a tag, we put them in shoe bags. We then ship them to these areas where they've been damaged by these events so that, again, they have something new on their feet to help them in the recovery process, to change their perspective, to get back to normal. And get back to normal is all we're looking for. We want to continue to do our part. It's really certainly in the culture here at Global Pro, and it's a very, very important part of everything that we're trying to achieve. So if you're interested in joining us, check us out online, or obviously, like I said, contact us at recover@getglobalpro.com. There's plenty of information there for you. Well, I want to transition to our next session, the next part of our episode here today, and bring on someone that knows a lot about changing a mindset. And he's actually joined by his partner, and he has a recent podcast that they launched called Sweat It Out. And we're going to talk a little bit about entrepreneurship, setting goals, but also how to deal with today's stress and things that they're seeing or hearing. Obviously, being in the health and fitness industry, they have a lot to offer. But I met Anthony quite a long time ago. I was looking for a trainer. I was at a local gym. I got randomly assigned to him, and he was merely just a trainer running around. But I had goals in mind, and he put me on a path to recovery, and we've been great friends ever since. So I'm absolutely looking forward to him joining us here today. With all the twists and turns that life throws at us, it's always good to have a guy like Anthony and his partner Josh as really kind of a sounding board and a guide and dealing with a lot of these issues and transactions. So without further ado, Mr. Mendez and Josh, welcome to the show.
How's it going?
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for joining us, guys. So from trainer to social media influencer, I want to start out here. I want the audience to get to know you a little bit, talk a little bit about yourselves, which shouldn't be all too difficult, because all day long you guys are putting up what you're doing and how you're doing it and how you're engaging. And you also launched this whole initiative to coach, which I'm really interested in getting into. But what's been some of your greatest challenges thus far in the health and fitness industry, especially with the whole advent of social media?
So off the bat, I'll pretty much say it. I'm like, social media influencer. Wow. I'm like, I don't even know what to call myself today. I'm like, I don't even know what to call myself today. No, but most importantly, I would say, COVID caught everybody by surprise. And we could definitely say that it really impacted the fitness industry. I think in a way that we can say it created a lot of awareness. And the reason I'm saying that is because if you see where trends were going, this space that we're in the online world was going to be here in the next 3 to 5 years, but COVID really sped that up. And a lot of the fitness industry probably wasn't necessarily completely ready for that. So it came in as a shocker. And for a lot of these coaches who may have not had a social media presence before, even dove into online or even knew about it, got hit by it, and they were forced immediately to get on it. The problem is they didn't know the tools. They didn't know how to access it. They didn't know how to go about it, grow it. And honestly, I would say that that's where we probably saw the biggest problem was all those coaches were doing only online. We're suffering now moving into an online world. But the amazing thing is that I think that the awareness from all of this is that really position now coaches for the future to start winning and start seeing where things are moving forward to, and also make them realize that you need other tools in your toolbox. You have to realize that now as a fitness coach, you can't just offer the in-person now and just think that you're going to live off of that. You have to be able to diversify and have multiple offers and be able to, reach out to more people. And that way you're now bulletproof from any pandemic or anything that may happen.
No, I think that's true. I mean, I think you've seen a lot of people kind of step behind the camera in the health and fitness industry, where you had, a lot of them have, and made their own content and created this whole new commerce for them. I don't know if you've accepted the title of influencer, but I think both of you kind of are there. And I would have to say that what it is. But so in thinking with that mindset, how do you guys perceive how the pandemic has helped your business?
I think, being able to take a step back, right? We were both very busy with our in-person training business. And I think being able to take a step back from that and focus on other avenues like our podcast opened up a lot of opportunities for us to be able to succeed because of the available time that we had.
100%. And I think too, like, I look back and ask myself, I'm like, thank God, I made the effort to go into social media hard 7 years ago, because I asked myself, like, I don't know what I would have done, if I never really dove myself into that and prepared myself properly, so I have to say that, in my position, thank God I was in that position to be able to transition in a much easier way. And now be able to coach coaches on how to be able to do that so they can be able to scale their online business and social media. And I think that there needs to be more of this now of okay, now coaches know how to coach. How are we going to be able to create, how are there going to be more systems out there to help coaches learn how to continue coaching effectively online, and how to continue having an effective system in place to be able to have a proper function in their business.
Let's talk about the coaching aspect of this a little bit. What has that meant to your business, and how are you helping entrepreneurs?
Yeah, for sure. So, off the bat, I would have to say, with COVID being, we all know people took hits, and we know a lot of people have suffered. And at the same time, there's a lot of people that are, gaining a lot of traction and prospering from this as well. So, on my end, I've been able to take advantage of the time being and really use some of the skill sets that I've learned and tools to be able to help these coaches. And what I wanted to do was, I saw right before COVID actually started, I was already going into this direction because I was seeing a gap. And the gap was that there was a lot of business coaches out there who are great business coaches, who were starting to work with fitness coaches to help increase their sales, get them moving online. But the one problem that was missing is a lot of these business coaches don't have the fitness element. And what I mean by that is that they themselves were never fitness coaches. So I wanted to fill in the gap where I didn't see, there's maybe only one or two out there now now you're starting to see a little bit more pop up because of the whole COVID thing. But yeah, I would say that I just really saw that there was a gap that I can fill, where I was like, I understand the social, I understand the business side, I understand the online, and I'm a 10-year experienced fitness coach. This is where I can relate and really connect with these coaches so they can understand how to really fully operate this. And, the most important thing is, everything you have in whatever business it is, you need to have a system in place. So, for a school to function, you need a system. For a government to function, you need a system. If you have a fitness client as a coach, your fitness program is a system for your client to get results. So what I told these coaches is the same way you would treat your clients with, giving them a fitness program as a system, you need to have a system for your online business. And the first thing people think about is, I got to spend money on an expensive website, on an expensive funnel, on email marketing, on all these ads. And honestly, you don't, and the most important thing is, I always say, go back to the foundation and build your foundation, and I'm not knocking those things off. They're important. I'm even using some of it now, but you have to understand there's a time and place to use those tools. So you don't have to spend all this money on something that is not even driving you traffic. Because you buy that sexy website, there's no traffic. You get that funnel, there's no traffic. You're running ads, you don't even know who to target properly, and you have to dump a lot of money into ads to really get a return. And then email marketing, there's no traffic. So you need to have an organic system that you can apply every single day, that's going to drive traffic towards your business on a consistent level. And then once you start making money from that is when you can start investing into tools like I just mentioned, with the website and the funnels and the ads, so on and so forth. So it's more about rewiring the thought process of coaches coming in here and thinking that's what I have to jump into. And instead it's like, no, we need to get you a system for you to follow every day.
No, I think a word you used there was organic. And I think you're hearing that word more now than ever. I think certainly through this pandemic, we've heard it all about organic, like Gary Vee and those types of guys are pushing this idea of organic, and how you don't need to spend the kind of money. But if you are, there's other places to spend it. And the cost of those ads, I know personally, is extreme. I mean, it's become more and more expensive, especially on Instagram, Facebook, things like that. Your more mainstream social media, it's certainly getting expensive. So you got to find new and different ways to do that. But Anthony, you're a particular different situation though, because you're like a household of 2 influencers. So how does that work out? I mean, there's got to be, so being an influencer on Instagram or in social media is a large time commitment. I don't think a lot of people realize that. I mean, you got to stay relevant, right? You got to be posting and engaging and responding to comments and liking and researching. I kind of find like it's like constant research, right? Because you kind of have to constantly be looking at what everyone else is doing. Not just because they're competitors, but ways to leverage maybe how they're connecting with other people or their audience. Maybe you can leverage their group because they may be different than yours because they're West Coast, we're East Coast. Living in a household of 2 influencers, how do you find time for the kids?
Man, so what I tell people all the time is you got to optimize your schedule. So what I tell people, and this is something me and Josh talk about a lot, is you have to understand that if you want to be a high performer, you got to put in what's most important in your schedule, and you need to cut the crap out. So this is actually something I go with my clients through my course. It's actually the second phase in my course, and it's called creating and building an optimizing schedule. And it's understanding, okay, listing out what's the most important things for you that define success. And remember, everybody's level of success is different. For your part of your success might be like, I need to be able to spend this much time with my family for me to feel successful. Well, if that's important for you, that needs to be in your schedule, and you have to treat it like that. So this goes for literally anything. If you have your me time and you have a hobby that's important for you, put it in your schedule and treat it as that. I don't expect you to change that for a client. Treat it as that. If that's where you go crazy. Now, if you can swap the times, go ahead and swap the times if you're okay with that. But where you see a lot of people having the mistake of going crazy, stressing out, is when they start taking things out that are important to them and filling them with other things that they say, well, this is really important. And it's like, yeah, but this was really important for you too. So I think if you treat what's important for you and you respect your schedule is going to respect you. So another thing I like to do is eliminating the crap, anything that's bullshit on there, we got to take that out. And what I mean by that is I have a thing where I say, you automate, you hand off, or you stop. So you got to look at the things you're doing on a daily basis. What can you automate? So right here, if you're spending an hour to go to the grocery store, that's an hour of your time that you can be using towards your business, where instead you can literally go on Amazon and literally put everything in a cart and just automate it every single month. And now you have an hour to be able to put towards your business or your family, something else that's meaningful to you, and you made the time count. If you hand something off, you can literally say, okay, who can I hand this tool off? Maybe you need an assistant, hand this off to an assistant. Maybe your significant other can take on other tasks, and you can hand that off to them instead of you focusing on that, so you can focus on the other important things. And then what do you need to stop? What is not serving you in your life anymore that's jeopardizing your business, your growth, your successes? You need to stop doing that. And that's, I think, when you can look at those things and understand that if I can hand off certain things, I can automate certain things, and I can stop doing things in my schedule, you're going to be able to build a bulletproof schedule that's going to take you to the top. And
Solid.
then lastly,
yeah, good.
On top of that is any white blanks that you see on your calendar, you need to fill them up. So if you have a white space, and fill them up, I mean, like if you need a break, you put 30-minute break. That's a slot that filled up, and you respect that 30-minute break. If it's eat breakfast, you put your slot to eat breakfast. And I literally create my schedule as detailed as that, where I'll put exactly time to eat breakfast, time to do this. And the reason I do that is because it creates that structure and knowing of, if I follow my schedule like this, I'm going to be consistent, and there's no time for me to be like, what do I do now? What was I supposed to do? I don't know. Yeah. So if you can literally approach your schedule like that, I'm telling you, that's where you'll see the value come out of it. The value come out of it.
I think a lot of good things there. I think it's sound advice. I absolutely subscribe to filling the calendar. A lot of people get anxiety when they see their calendar full. It's the complete opposite for me. I mean, there's been many times during this pandemic where I didn't have the client meetings I used to have, right? Where it was, one lunch after another, after breakfast, it was like constant throughout the whole week. You didn't have that anymore because people weren't going anywhere. And if they were going anywhere, it was only because they absolutely had to. It was not because they wanted to. So it was, I had to retool my whole focus and my whole goal setting and say, okay, how do I fill my calendar differently than I once did before? And what things should I be doing if I can't now drive to go somewhere? It's remarkable all the things I could come up with to do in that same time. Because the irony of the whole thing is that meeting that I drove to that took me an hour one way and an hour back, and 30 minutes just to get into the meeting, for the 15 minutes to then get up, to walk back to the car, to drive back. I mean, add in a Zoom or a phone call, and next thing you know, you saved all that time now. But now the thing is, okay, what do you do with that extra time? And I think people have fallen victim to not doing it. So Josh, there's a lot of this, I hear a lot of times, and if it's been on our show, we've had a few people like coaches and things like that talk about a new way of saying, or their new take on work-life balance. What's your perspective on that thing, and what's your perspective on it? And are you a work-life balance guy, or are you something else?
I mean, for me personally, I really enjoy what I do. So I like to work, at least a little bit, 6 days a week. I might take, Saturday off or Sunday off, but it depends on you. I mean, there are people, Anthony, for one, I know is an absolute workhorse, and nothing will stop him from getting what he wants. So, and on the other side, like I know a lot of people that need a strict balance, right? Like, okay, I'm only going to work my 9 to 5, and then on the weekends I'm going to be with my family, or I'm going to be with my friends, and that's okay. And like Anthony said, right, I think it's best that you respect your schedule, right? So if you block off a certain amount of time to spend with your family, or you block off an hour to go to the gym, you need to go to the gym and spend that hour actually training, not messing around on your phone or communicating with people. Use that time wisely, so then you don't have to worry about it, right? But I think that there is an importance between knowing your limit for what you can take for your workload, and when you need to take a break or a vacation.
Josh said something really good. It's using that time wisely. And this is something that we talk about all the time is most people, when they go into their schedule, and even if they have it scheduled out, what happens is when they go into a task or whatever they're facing, they're not intentional with it. And they only give it 50 to 70%. And what happens to that other 50, 30% is that now, since you didn't give it 100 to 110%, at that time being, now you need to make that up somewhere else. And then that's where the stress kicks in. So if you're somebody who wants to really just be stress-free, not anxious, and when you get to the end of your day, you can now spend it with your time being with your family, yourself, a hobby, me time, be intentional with all the things you have to do during the day, so you don't have to make that up later on or later in the week.
So let me ask you guys, a lot of focus, obviously, health fitness world is on Instagram. What's beyond that? You have any predictions as to what's going to be next?
I mean, right now it seems like the real big one that's making a push is TikTok as like a social media platform, right? Tons of people on there, mostly younger generation kids, but that'll change in the next couple of years. I mean, same thing happened with Instagram, same thing happened with Facebook. Now those are, two monsters in the game right now. I'm sure that, there'll be a couple other ones that trickle on through that, we'll probably dabble in a little bit. YouTube, I think, is going to continue to be a monster, and podcasts, right? Podcasts are becoming a really big platform for people, especially people in the fitness industry, to, share their message with more people.
Well, I'll definitely say, like, now TikTok's entering their golden, that golden age. They're still very young. So I would say they're entering that golden age now. And it's one of those things where I tell people, like, especially if you run a business, what you got to understand is TikTok is right now for business, as far as like depending on what your business model is, especially if you're selling high ticket stuff, probably not the most ideal place to put all your energy into, just because you're not going to get that type of crowd. But that doesn't mean you should not pay attention to it. And you should at least start putting some kind of content and understanding, because in the next 5 years, those people, are going to become the next buyers. So I think it's understanding that you don't want to put all your energy into it, but you want to put some energy so you can have some growth. So when you do get there, you can switch over and dive in. Whereas Instagram now, Facebook, LinkedIn, you're going to find more of that high ticket clientele where you're going to probably be able to, push your offer or push whatever your business has and be able to get a return, and then, you got YouTube has always been a great platform that continues to grow. And then I know you're hearing other platforms. I think Parler came out, there's a big thing with Parler now. But I would say the most important thing is understand this so people don't go crazy. When you start on social, or when you're on social, you need to first attack the platform you're biggest on, the one that you get the most attention on. Put your energy there most, and then see what's your secondary platform. And then from there, you really want to get to the point where you can have those automated. And if you need to build a team around to help you to automate that, you can automate those. And then you can start, when you have more time or more freedom, you can start diving into some of the other ones, and pay some attention to it. But I think there's just so many stuffs coming out all the time that people go crazy and they're like, I don't know what to start with because there's so much. And like, I'm doing a little bit here, I'm doing a little bit there, a little. But the problem is when you start dabbling with too much and you're trying to do everything, you're not going to be able to focus on one. So focus first on the first two that are your strongest ones.
Yeah, no, I think, you want to, the problem I see with a lot of these platforms is that the content that fits on Instagram doesn't really fit on TikTok, doesn't really fit on LinkedIn and Facebook. I mean, you're literally like, the stuff that goes on Instagram doesn't even fit on Facebook, and they're owned by the same company, right? So like, I think it becomes, and then you talk about use your time wisely. You know, is it advantage? Is there an advantage to creating content that fits on every single platform and every one of the sizes? And I'm talking just like the rendering size of it, right? And with the video and it's like, I feel like I just see a lot of people just get so bogged down and spend so much time, and it's like, man, you could have made like 5 more videos in the time it took you to make that one video 5 different times, you know, for the various different platforms. We haven't tried TikTok out here much at Global Pro, but it's always been something I've been kind of interested in. But then at one point, it was like going to disappear. So, you
gotta just be smart with it. Like I tell people all the time, like, look, for example, Instagram, you got IG Reels now. That's the closest thing to TikTok. So anytime you use an IG Reel, save that reel, and now you have it for a TikTok post. You know, so you got to understand what features from what social media platforms are very closest to other features on platforms. That's where you can now cross over some of your content, you know, and then play around with it like that. So you don't have to go crazy thinking you have to create all this different content unless you have the team and capability to do it. But if you're one person or you have a small team, like, you know, my biggest piece of advice is use your time for the 1 or 2 that are going to give you the most traction, and then whatever features are most similar to another social media platform, then you can cross over some of that content over. Yep. But don't just break your head. Don't go crazy breaking your head trying to figure out all of them all at once. You're not gonna do well.
So how can our audience learn out about the? We didn't even get to talk about it really. I want to wrap up here, but the Sweat It Out. Tell us a little quickly about that, and how can our audience find out about it?
So yeah, for sure. So with Sweat It Out, you guys can actually find us out on YouTube, Sweat It Out Podcast, Apple, Sweat It Out Podcast, Spotify, Sweat It Out Podcast. That's where we heavily push out most of our attention. We're on other ones like iHeartRadio and stuff like that. But the most important thing to understand is that we're trying to be a source, you know, something that me, Josh, say all the time is, if you can get something out of our podcast that you can use as a tool to apply to your everyday life, where we can be another resource of valuable information, a go-to resource that you can just say, you know what, there's 1 or 2 things that stuck out of that podcast, that segment that I listened to, that really stuck out to me and I can apply it. That's going to bring me a ton of value. And the reason we say that is because, as you know, there's so much information. There's so many people doing stuff. There's so many workshops, so many podcasts that you're not going to be able to retain every single thing of information, and you're not going to be able to apply every single thing. So what we want is when our listeners come in here is, what are those things that stuck out to you the most? And that's all we want you to apply. You know, what is that one thing that stuck out the most, and start doing that. And that's how you're going to start seeing success.
Well, guys, I huge thanks. It was awesome to have you on. Different perspectives, changing it up. We're constantly trying to do that here. Insurance is not the sexiest thing to talk about all the time. So we integrate some of the business, and I hope our audience learned something, walked away here thinking differently about stuff, change your perspective. It's really what it's about, especially in the pandemic with all the stresses that are going on. Huge thanks to all of our attendees that tuned in this week on the Recovery Report Live. Go online at getglobalpro.com. Check us out on our website. Click the resource section to read, download, connect with us on all of our social media. Go on YouTube, follow us, like us. Engage us as much as you can to learn about the different things and ways you can help you as a policyholder recover from your loss and damage. And also, we have people on like Anthony and Josh to help you as business owners think differently so that you can take advantage of these situations and plan differently in the event that this were to occur in the future. We love to connect with all our clients and communities, so call us anytime or shoot us an email. Reminder about our Fresh Kicks and Cuts initiative. If you're interested, again, go onto our website, getglobalpro.com, pull down on the About Us to Global Pro Cares. You can read all about the 2 initiatives that we have going right now, Love in the Bag and Fresh Kicks and Cuts, and how you can help us help the victims of the 2020 storm season. Next week, we take a break and reflect. It's obviously Thanksgiving, and I think we all need a bit of time of reflection and thankfulness if you're in good health. It's certainly been a tough year. So we're going to take a break here at Global Pro and on the Recovery Report. But when we come back, I'm joined with Jose Hernandez, a good friend of mine, an executive with the Easton Group. Certainly someone, if you're in real estate, want to learn something, this man has his absolute finger on the pulse of what's going on and trends that they're seeing. especially in the industrial side of stuff. So please tune in 2 weeks. He'll be on. We're very excited about it. Again, thank you to Josh and Anthony for joining us this week on the Recovery Report Live.